Lost in the swirl of election year news. Okay, had that been Joe Biden, it would have been front page news all day, every damn day. Oh, we got another one. Did you say... Hey, Trump, well, you know he's yours. Now you know he's yours. You probably should have gone to that wedding. Shout out to all the subscribers and the members here on the channel. Don't forget to like the video. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all, where we highlight those unique individuals going above and beyond to make society worse.
Sir, Mr. President, about the latest inflation number which came out this morning. Could that be a
No, I love it. The numbers were great. You know what I really love? I love the inflation. You know why? Because as soon as this war is over, you know, I can say it now. Something you didn't know. Do you know we've been taking out millions of barrels of oil? Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now. We took out the other night 22 ships, late at night with no lights, because they don't have any radar, because we blasted the crap out of it. We took out, that's why oil's $85 a barrel. I mean, you take a look. Remember when I did this, I said, look, the one bad thing will be we hit the best economy we've ever hit. And I said to my people, I had Scott, I had Howard, I had Pete, I had all of them. I had Todd in the room. I said, the one thing we have to do now, we had just hit the highest stock market in history, highest 401ks in history. Everything was going well. And I said, I hate to do this to you guys, but Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon very soon. We have to go and attack. So we hit them with the B-2 bombers.
You know, the kinds of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
I want to talk to the manager.
Oh, hey, Trump, don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere.
You ought to straighten out your press, because you know what?
Mr. President,
a country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
I know it's a little harder to storm out than you thought. Yeah, when you be all mic'd up and stuff, it'd be a whole problem. Matter of fact, I think you dropped something. Epstein Files says Trump knew and funded underage parties at his golf course? Trump, what you doing reading the Miami Sun-Times? Are you trying to take all the copies? Is that what it is?
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times. Sinks, showers, and toilets. We won't talk about toilets.
An FBI document from the U.S. Department of Justice Jeffrey Epstein Files contains extraordinary allegations involving President Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and a Trump-owned golf course, claims that appear to have originated from a single tipster who contacted federal authorities in 2021. Isn't a single tipster what got all the MAGA media to motivate against Jay-Z? Well, let's hear him out then.
I am probably the president's #1 fan.
The FBI intake report does not identify the golf course referenced by the caller. However, the allegation appears in files connected to Epstein, whose sprawling Palm Beach mansion served as the center of many of the activities that ultimately led to his conviction and the federal trafficking investigation that followed. The document, dated June 21st, 2021, summarizes a call received by the Bureau's National Threat Operations Center from an individual who claimed to have firsthand knowledge of criminal activity involving Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Trump. Among the allegations in the report, the caller claimed to have recordings of Trump, Epstein, and Maxwell discussing, quote, marketing strategies for high-profile sex parties held at the Trump golf course. The caller alleged the recordings had been mailed to an attorney in the Cayman Islands. Marketing strategies for sex parties? Sex parties supposed to sell themselves, ain't they? I would think so. They supposed to sell themselves. If they're not selling themselves, then People gonna ask for refunds. I can tell you that right now.
We ain't settled this yet, right? Where's my money, motherfucker?
When it's time to start marketing your sex party, that's when it's time to get out the game. That's nature's way of telling you to find somebody nice and settle down.
He's right, you know.
The tipster further claimed Trump knew about underage sex parties occurring at the golf course and that revenue from the club was used to fund them. Used to fund them? How much was y'all paying people to be? That was a job? Actually, you know what? I've seen some of the people involved. You would have to pay. You would have to pay. I apologize. And now all of a sudden, the Real Housewives of Mar-a-Lago makes perfect sense. Trump, I don't know what you're doing with that, but I got some more reading for you when you're finished.
In a breathtaking new piece of reporting published in New York Magazine, adopted from reporting for an upcoming book called Regime Change, journalists Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan reveal a White House rocked and completely thrown off by indecision and concern as they navigated what to do with the Epstein Files. They write this, quote, "Behind the scenes, the Epstein crisis was paralyzing the Trump administration to a far greater extent than the public knew. In their public statements, Trump's advisors were full of bravado, dismissing the crisis. But in reality, it was consuming the highest ranks of the administration, as no issue had for the president's team since the Russia investigation in his first term. His aides were determined to keep their rising sense of panic out of public view."
That was Maggie Haberman? Isn't she the same Trump apologist that withheld information so she could write a book? And she turned in state's evidence on Trump? Hey, Trump, we got another low IQ. We got another low IQ stupid person that you want to attack on True Social. Oh, you not finished with Stephen A. Smith? All right, you can finish that first, actually. Yeah, go ahead. Give them everything. Hey, say it was blasphemy.
Blasphemous. Blasphemy. Just blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy.
Trump can't allow anyone in the Epstein Files to be charged because his name would come up in their trial. The entire Republican Party is protecting Trump and the Epstein elite. Go on. Breaking. The New York Times inside the White House freak out over the Epstein Files is remarkable. The Epstein allegation against Trump that was debated in the Situation Room by the VP, Chief of Staff, and much of the cabinet and deliberately kept out of publicly released documents. Deliberately kept out of publicly released documents? Trump, you know about this? I'm just playing. Of course you know about this.
So true.
In the emails, Ransom claims she knew a girl on Epstein's ring named Jen who said she was with Trump. Ransom also claimed that Jen had told her that Trump had a predilection for what? And that he had aggressively flicked and... Why aggressively? What's that? You have them, you know? And they growing, honestly. Put on a blindfold. You could save everybody some time and injury.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Ransom wrote she had seen evidence when she shared a bathroom with Jen. They looked incredibly painful as they were red and swollen, and I remember wincing when I looked at them. Ransom's credibility is not uncomplicated. She had made another claim that she possessed video footage of prominent men with young girls in Epstein's entourage. She later retracted the claims, saying she feared for herself and her safety if she proceeded. But after a federal judge ordered the unsealing of some of Guthrie case files in 2023, the document that connected Trump to the claim about abused nips was among the material that came out. It was an unconfirmed allegation that had not been made publicly, but the disclosure led to some articles that were quickly lost in the swirl of election year news. Nah, that's code for y'all running cover for your mans. That's what that's code for. You know how much disqualifying information and reports got swept away in the swirl of election year news, or non-election year news, or post-election year news. Y'all been on the same BS for a decade. Our media. That's the one thing I actually agree with Trump on. The fact that he thinks it's been harmful to him is nuts.
Man, this some old bull.
Lost in the swirl of election year news. Okay, had that been Joe Biden, it would have been front page news all day, every damn day. Oh, we got another one. Did you say... Hey, Trump, well, you know he's yours. Now you know he's yours. You probably should have gone to that wedding.
If you were watching the Trump administration in 2025,
you would have gotten the impression that the Epstein Files were a relatively minor issue.
President Trump suggested that nobody cared.
He said that the Epstein story was boring,
that this was a hoax.
These files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama.
But what we learned while we were reporting our book, Regime Change, was just how much the Trump administration, up to the highest levels of the government, were paralyzed over how to deal with a growing crisis. Their biggest obstacle was Donald Trump.
Trump wanted it buried. He didn't want to release the files. His staff knew that this was an issue that they couldn't really talk about.
People in his orbit found him snapping at them if they even raised the issue of Jeffrey Epstein.
I mean, tell me about it. He done got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace packed up. Hey, Lauren Boebert, you know what them boxes are? Do you even know how to make a box? That wasn't in your GED test?
So over the summer of 2025, you had some of Trump's most senior advisors, the top level of the government, gathered in the Situation Room,
which is typically used for national security or responding to national disasters,
to figure out a way to spin their way out of this.
Not with the president, but among themselves.
It was an issue that came back to bite them, because many of the same senior people who were in the Situation Room were very strong advocates for releasing the Epstein Files way back even before the 2024 campaign, and potentially a client list, a list of powerful men who were, the rumors had it, involved in sex trafficking with Epstein. We have seen no evidence that there is a client list.
But the idea of a client list had been popularized by, among others, Trump's future vice president.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
His future FBI director.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
And his future deputy FBI director.
The Epstein client list, I believe, is going to rock the political world. There's a reason they're hiding it.
That's pretty damning, isn't it? That's pretty damning. Hey, Dan Bongino, that was back when you was getting ratings. That was back when you was talking big stuff. When you was out, yeah, you most certainly were. Yeah. It's a little awkward when you see them names now, isn't it?
After he was elected, his own attorney general appeared to confirm that a client list existed.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
They go through the files and the message changes very substantially. Very quickly, it became clear that Trump himself was mentioned numerous times across these files.
Does not mean that anything said there was verified about Trump or anyone else.
You would say that. You would say that. You wasn't pulling that back when they were scattershot and trying to take down other people for a single mention. Now that's what you got to say. Must have been a coincidence. You know how common a name Trump is.
But it did mean that releasing the files was a non-starter for the president and his team.
In the coming months, there were internal conversations about, well, what do we do?
In early July, the Justice Department and the FBI released a joint memo with no names attached to it, just letterhead, saying, in fact, there was no client list and that there were no other people who should be prosecuted in connection with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
And all of a sudden, many of his voters who thought that they were electing a president and people around him to get to the bottom of the Epstein story were suddenly feeling that they were actually part of a cover-up.
How many of you are satisfied with the results of the Epstein investigation?
Laura Ingraham, you should have shut up and dribble. You should have shut up and dribble. Yeah. And in your case, you don't play basketball, so just, down here, just stay home and dribble out there. That will be better than what we get every day on Fox News. I can tell you that right now.
During this whole period, Trump was just getting more and more fed up.
He was very used to telling his base what to think and having them believe him.
He accused his supporters of being weaklings. He said he didn't want their support anymore.
He used expletives to say this was all fake, and again said this was all the fault of Democrats.
Any attempts that Trump made to downplay the scandal only reinforced suspicions among his base that they were hiding something. So at those meetings last summer, when President Trump's most senior aides gathered away from him.
Hey, Cash don't look with it. Why he look fuzzy? Give him a breathalyzer. Do it on the low.
The vice president thought that they should put everything out there, that Congress was going to force the issue anyway. Others, like the chief of staff, said absolutely no way the president would be okay with that. There was a conversation about whether Todd Blanche, who was the deputy attorney general at the time, whether he should go on Joe Rogan. The vice president said that he should be the one to go on Rogan.
Well, first of all, I'm no fan of Todd Blanche, but I can't think of a worse guest for anybody's podcast than J.D. Vance. I can tell you that right now. Hey, Joe Rogan, you dodged a bullet. You dodged a bullet right there. And let's also let it not go ignored the fact that Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, went and jumped in front of a full release of the Epstein Files. There's no way that Trump would be okay with that. And why is that?
What they didn't talk about was prosecuting additional men or any kind of widespread justice for the victims. We're talking about a number of women who say that they were victimized and abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Many of them were minors. The discussion in the Situation Room was not about how to give these women a hearing or a chance to tell their stories. These meetings were about how to handle the political fallout around the White House.
Now, I know y'all know that. Now, I know y'all know that, but I do think it is important to just land the point on the degree of moral decay that we have not only allowed, but uplifted in this country. I just did a whole video roasting Nancy Mace, and rightfully so, for all of her troll antics and the fact that she got packed up as a pick-me always eventually does. Low IQ, weaklings, I don't need your support. We've seen the song and dance many times before. But let's also keep in mind the single thing that left her on the opposite side of a Trump endorsement and likely a spot in the South Carolina gubernatorial runoff was her advocacy for transparency for the Epstein Files. That's something we all know as a country caused a big enough break with the president for him to bury her career. And we just push forward like that's regular.
What ended up happening is their hand was forced by Congress. They ultimately passed, nearly unanimously, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Trump was forced to sign it. And what was clear from our reporting is even after that, even after the passage of this bill and the release of so many of these files, the issue didn't go away at all. Maggie and I obtained a document written by President Trump's top pollster, Tony Fabrizio, which described focus groups that were conducted in March of this year.
It was the sixth most important issue raised by voters in this focus group.
Head of crime and safety, the military, data centers. I mean, these are really potent political issues that ranked below the Epstein Files. More than a year after they first started to try to deal with the Epstein crisis.
He just simply could not make it go away by telling his supporters they should believe him instead of something else.
Vice President J.D. Vance took a seat at the head of the table in the John F. Kennedy conference room of the Situation Room complex. I'm surprised he didn't change the name of it to Trump. That's what he likes to do with Kennedy. This is a huge problem, he told the group. Arrayed around him were the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, White House Counsel David Warrington, the Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt, the Deputy Chief of Staff, Taylor Budowich, the Communications Director, Stephen Chung, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, the Associate Attorney General, Stanley Woodward Jr., and the Deputy Chief of Staff, James Blair. Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI Director, Kash Patel, joined on speakerphone. Speakerphone? Cash was on speakerphone. Y'all couldn't find him, could you? Y'all couldn't find him. Tell the truth. Did he say anything? Did he participate? Cash, did you even have your phone? The vice president appeared panicked to others in the room about the way the subject of Epstein was already dividing the MAGA coalition. Some senior officials had the impression that Vance had bought into the darkest theories about Epstein and a cabal of predators hidden within the country's ruling class. Wiles would tell others that the vice president had proved himself to be a major conspiracy theorist. Another top official said later that Vance had been pounding on the Epstein issue since the release of the memo. He was privately pressing for the administration to release all the Epstein files, everything in the Justice Department's possession, even encouraging a congressional investigation. J.D. Vance, you ain't slick. You ain't slick. You ain't slick. Hey, who want to wait till 2028? You know what I mean? Who want to wait? Hey, I found some of the Epstein files. You ain't heard this from me. You know what I mean? I see you, J.D.
You didn't hear that from me.
The consensus was that calling for the release of the grand jury material was the best course of action. Wiles told the group she would discuss the matter with Trump and ask if he would send a True Social post calling for the release of the sealed grand jury documents. Wait a minute. But Caroline Leavitt told me don't nobody control his True Social. Susie Wiles, you out here telling him to post on? You have something to do with the monkey memes too? Was that you? Huh? How about the sombreros?
She did it. She's the one you want.
Just then, the Wall Street Journal article They Had Been Trying to Kill was published online. Cell phones are forbidden in the Situation Room, so a staff member brought in printed copies of the explosive report, which detailed how Trump and many others had created birthday cards and letters to be assembled by Maxwell into a special birthday book for Epstein in 2003. Oh, y'all remember that, don't you? Yeah, the child's drawing that only one adult in America could have been responsible for. The birthday card attributed to Trump depicted a nude woman, hand-drawn and inscribed with an imagined dialogue between the two men about a, quote, wonderful secret. The drawing was signed with what appeared to be Trump's distinctive, jagged Sharpie signature in place of the woman's hair. I would rather have the hair, and that's one of the nastiest things on the planet. I would rather have that, if we're being honest. In the days before publication, Trump, in an effort to quash the story, had called News Corp's chief executive Robert Thompson, News Corp's owner Rupert Murdoch, and the Journal's editor-in-chief Emma Tucker, practically shouting, the president told Tucker, who's British, she must, quote, hate America. He told her he would file a lawsuit. Huh, now that's interesting. So she hates America for doing something the least bit problematic to you. That equates to hating America. Yeah, that checks out. Now, doesn't it? Not that I would expect News Corp and Fox News to connect that. Oh, no. Well... The Justice Department has struggled with just how to dispose of the Epstein matter since the beginning of Trump's second term. The issue was all-consuming for the president's political base. but also potentially compromising for the president himself in ways that officials in the new administration didn't fully understand. Any path forward would be fraught. Some of that complexity was self-inflicted. In the engine room of the MAGA movement, the Epstein Files were potent fuel. Elon Musk had used his social media platform to repeatedly question why a client list had not been released. Don Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance had invoked the Epstein Files as a broader campaign message to argue that powerful people were hiding the truth from Americans. Tucker Carlson and the young conservative leader Charlie Kirk had each insisted that the government should release the documents, and each floated the idea that there was an expansive cover-up in progress. Oh, yeah, a lot to unpack there. There was Elon Musk beating the drum about the Epstein Files, knowing his name was sitting right up there like an unclaimed child. That's exactly what he did. And you did mention the name Charlie Kirk now, didn't you? He was in favor of full transparency, wasn't he? Wonder if that'll come back up.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
On February 27th, the White House Communications Office scheduled a lineup of cabinet officials to brief popular right-wing influencers in the Roosevelt Room. The session began with VP Vance, followed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, walking the influencers through the administration's agenda. In attendance was a who's who of online MAGA: Mike Chernovich, Liz Wheeler, Colin Rugg, DC Drano. I feel like I need to take a bath just after reading that last sentence.
Brother,
The president himself brought them to the Oval Office and gave them custom designed challenge coins as a token of his appreciation. Hey, did they look like the NFTs? Did they have a picture of him with the NFT with all the muscles? Well, was he standing? That would be every bit as wild if he was doing physical activity. Was he awake? Before everything went wrong, one of them would remark, "It was the best day of my life." Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok. That's who my money's on. That's definitely who my money's on. And where was Laura Loomer at while all this was going on? She's still in the back. She might have said that, actually. Then the Attorney General and her team walked into the Roosevelt Room carrying boxes. Bondi had brought binders as handouts for the influencers. Her aides would later tell colleagues that the FBI had prepared them with the assurance that they contained revelatory details. Someone on her staff said, "Watch this. This is cool. This is going to be epic." But as Bondi's staff started distributing the binders, the blood pressure of other officials in the room skyrocketed. They had no idea what was in the handouts. The Attorney General was distributing something she was calling, quote, the Epstein Files, that had not been vetted by anyone in the White House. One official opening the binder began flipping through pages to see if Trump's name was mentioned anywhere. A few pages in, right in the middle of the page, there it was. You know, rare is the event that's equally embarrassing to everybody involved. And this many people, who's more embarrassed about this incident? You can't answer that, right? You can't answer it. Like some others in the White House, Bondi had either grossly underestimated or simply been blind to the voracious appetite of the MAGA base for information about Epstein. Her binders contain information about him and his activities, flight logs, contact lists, summaries of items taken from his residences after his 2019 arrest, and other material, but nearly all of it had been previously released. Bondi had somehow simultaneously oversold and trivialized the Epstein Files, and now the influencers were made to feel like dupes. You mean she brought a mirror? She brought a mirror. Is that what you mean? That would have been easier. That would have been easy. Just hand out mirrors, and they all would have seen themselves. Now we all got all this video and footage. For weeks, Patel and Bongino, the deputy FBI director, had grown more infuriated as they realized the scale of the mess for which they were now being blamed. They repeatedly raised alarms internally that the Epstein crisis was gathering momentum with Trump supporters. Bongino wanted to convey something definitive to the MAGA base, and he and Patel pushed for the immediate release of the surveillance footage from the federal facility where Epstein was found dead in his cell. Y'all want to guess how that went? The release of the surveillance video, which Bongino and Patel had intended as a gesture of transparency, further fueled the fire. The Department of Justice ended up releasing roughly 11 hours of prison video intended to show that nothing nefarious occurred, but the footage was missing a minute. A visible timestamp jump from 11:58 p.m. to midnight. Bondi initially attributed this to a nightly system reset. The footage was later restored and released. To many of Trump's followers, however, this was yet more evidence of a cover-up. White House officials complained privately that they hadn't been told about the gap before the release. Social media lit up with blame, not just for Bondi, but for Patel and Bongino too. Well, in a situation like this, you have to consider the parties involved. Are you actively involved in a cover-up that would inform nefariousness in the missing footage? Then there's that. And there's also the part where you guys decided that loyalty was the single qualification to work in a high level or really any level of visibility in this administration. Not competence, not expertise, not experience, but loyalty. So this is what you get. None of the three had ever experienced anger at this volume from Trump's conservative base. It was disorienting, especially for Patel and Bongino, whose power and influence had been built online. The movement that had treated them as heroes was suddenly turning on them. The two men were now tightly connected to a memo that stated in black and white that while information in the government's possession showed ample evidence of Epstein's own wrongdoing, there was no evidence of a wider conspiracy. The day the memo was released, Bongino showed up to a daily Justice Department meeting with the FBI staff and the Attorney General. He was in a volcanic mood. As soon as he entered the room, he erupted at Bondi, shouting at her, "You F this thing up from the start." Dan! You yelling at the blonde lady Well, this thing got good. No, he forgot. Show him a mirror. Show him a... Man, you've been over there too long, man. You F this thing up from the start, Bongino yelled. The way you've been talking about this, that dumb effing charade with the Epstein Files, the they're on my desk nonsense, all the promises to the folks out there. Patel and Bongino both subsequently told a White House official that Bondi needed to resign. Yeah, that's how it goes. Call her low IQ.
I love the poorly educated.
2 days later, on July 9th, the two men were summoned to a meeting with Wiles and Bondi in the Situation Room complex. They were the last to enter the small wood-paneled room. Seated around the table were Bondi, Wiles, Blanche, and Taylor Budowich, one of Wiles's deputies. The moment Bongino sat down, Wiles told him that she had been informed he leaked a sensitive story about Epstein and Trump to ABC News. Pam Bondi, you fighting back? You fighting back, Pam Bondi? This a Let 'em Fight exclusive, ain't it? Okay. No, he did. He did leak it. I synced it. I'll send you footage of the leak. But it's missing a minute. But it's nothing nefarious, though, that happened. I'll tell you what, Bongino replied. I'll give you $100,000 cash right now. I'm not kidding. Walk out to Wex exec, put that reporter on speaker, and get him to admit I leaked it. $100,000. Wiles snapped back. Well, we all got ourselves into this. Bongino cut her off. No, 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 no. We didn't get ourselves into anything. I warned you guys about this the whole time and you ignored me, and exactly what I said was going to happen happened. And now you're pretending I was in on this. I was never in on this. Bongino's aggressive response to Wiles startled the others. They call the cops. They call the cops. That's what they do when Susie Wiles, all you had to do was start crying. Susie Wiles, you start crying, they took him right out of there. Come on, this ain't your first rodeo.
Oh, no!
Bongino's aggressive response to Wiles startled the others. She was the White House chief of staff, essentially a stand-in for the president. Wiles put Bongino on the spot. Going forward, she said, we're all in. We're all going to agree to move forward. Are you in or not? No, I'm not, Bongino said. This is not my plan. I'm not part of this going forward. Forget it. I'm out of here. He stormed out of the Situation Room and onto West Executive Avenue, where he climbed into the back of Patel's armored SUV and directed the driver to take him to FBI headquarters. He been mad ever since. He been mad ever since. Yeah. Now I get Dan Bongino's attitude, why he be so mad when he be on his podcast now. He be cussing people out for no reason. Now I see all that was about. Yeah, that makes sense. And how did Cash get back? If he took Cash Patel, that y'all made Cash walk? Y'all say he needed to walk it off anyway?
Endless complaining, then just don't watch the shows. It's okay. Like, this is a constitutional republic. You're not obligated to listen to my show.
Some of Bongino's closest friends hoped he would resign right then and act a protest that would have made him a MAGA martyr and only increased his following. But White House advisors intervened, urging him to stay. If he quit over Epstein and went public, it could severely damage the president. Bongino told associates he would remain for Trump's sake and keep pushing for more Epstein information to be released. Okay. Now let me try and understand this. So if Bongino would have quit on the spot, he would have been seen as a MAGA martyr, would have garnered love and praise and support for his career moving forward, which no doubt they would have tried to squash, exactly how they done with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mason and all that, right? But he decided to stay for Trump's sake and to protect the administration, and thereby completely sacrifice his own reputation and his own ability to find a place in the MAGA media marketplace after he eventually left. And you decided to do that to protect a man who, for some reason, prevents the full transparency that has set all of this in motion. Yeah, y'all deserve all this. I mean, y'all deserve all this. This is crazy.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Privately, he seethed. In conversations with confidants, he lamented what the job had cost him, millions of dollars in podcast revenue, family time, his audience. He was getting torn apart over a strategy he had opposed from the start. Now, I can attest to that. I can attest to that. He was indeed a broken man. We've seen it.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this, and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these four walls all day in D.C., by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
The relationships at the top of the Justice Department were by now beyond dysfunctional. At another July meeting in Wiles' office, Bongino and Patel told the chief of staff they suspected that Bondi had leaked negative stories about them. Blondie effed this whole thing up, Bongino later told a confidant, echoing Loomer's derisive nickname for the Attorney General. Hey, Bongino really on Pam Bondi's helmet. They got something going on. Huh? Ain't no reason to get this worked up over something at work. You know what I mean? Ain't no reason. I ain't never seen two people beefing at work this hard and this long if they wasn't beefing at home. You know what I mean? Come on. Come on.
You don't find that suspicious?
She was the one on TV saying over and over they had all this stuff. There was never anything. We were always clear about that, but now everyone thinks that we did something wrong, and I gave up everything. Bongino complained he had given up his high-rated show in millions of dollars, and now it's all disappeared because people think we screwed something up with Epstein. Bongino paused. This is going to be President Trump's Iran-Contra. Damn. High-rated show. You know what I mean? They do be waiting for you at the bottom of the steps now, though. So you definitely lost a little freedom of movement there.
How did you put your name on?
You're a pedophile protector. A pedophile protector.
On July 12th, the president took to Truth Social to defend Bondi against criticism and to urge his boys and gals to stop wasting time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Trump told aides he was very unhappy with some of his most influential supporters, including Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, and Megyn Kelly, all of whom were publicly urging the administration to come clean. Kirk had held a Turning Point USA event the previous day that turned into an Epstein grievance fest, with one speaker after another bashing Bondi over her handling of the situation. Trump had called Kirk and scolded him. He didn't bring that up at the memorial. Erica never done brought that up either. She sure enough did not. Well, that's awkward. And it's the same guy y'all were trying to cancel people over their reactions to, but this would happen when he was alive, though.
But wait, there's more.
Nobody in Trump's orbit had a better feel for the younger part of the MAGA base than Kirk, who saw that the Epstein cover-up, as it was now viewed, was capturing attention to an alarming extent. Don Trump Jr. and J.D. Vance, both of whom spent considerable time on X and were tapped into the same younger and hyper online portion of the base, were also worried. They urged the White House to change course and force the Justice Department to release more files. But did they do it? Though? Did they really? No. Yeah, they sure enough didn't. But I can tell you one thing, that the lawmakers who pressed Donald Trump to release said files have all been pushed out. You know, the Thomas Masseys of the world. I can also say that everybody who was party to the slow leak of Epstein information, you certainly can't call it the publication of the files, but everybody that was party to it has also been pushed out. Ain't that right, Pam Bondi? Huh? Oh, that's right. And I remember you named Todd Blanche, too. You definitely did name Todd Blanche. You got a lot of free time on your hands to talk about the good old days with Dan Bongino, who also is gone. I don't know why they have apparently they still looking for cash when he walked home. I don't, they waiting to fire him. I don't know exactly what that, I guess so they have somebody they can blame the next fire on. So that's why they keep Kash Patel around for that. But that is pretty instructive now, isn't it? That's pretty instructive. He was the one that y'all were trying to protect, and y'all are the ones that end up on the outside looking in. And somehow, that doesn't seem to inform those that are still carrying his water and doing his bidding. But they gonna learn. They always do.
You gonna learn today?
No. No, Nancy Mace, I don't carry cash. Sorry.